Ahoy! The footage that you see in the background of this video is for once not just background footage, it's actually important for the content of this video. Because this video is about an item that has been excessively built in the Pro League, and that is Benevolence. Between various item changes as well as the meta shifts due to boots being removed and certain items being very viable as early starts, like for example Fighter's Mask, it has now been established in the Pro League that building Benevolence on pretty much anyone except the jungler is the most efficient way to play. A lot of gods can also upgrade it into Animosity, so they still get decent damage out of it. While Animosity itself is seeing some nerfs, Benevolence was planned to be looked at later, but has become a little bit overwhelming. And because of that, Titan Ponpon released a statement for an upcoming hotfix, and we're gonna look into that. The post is Benevolence plans hotfix coming August 10th, so not very far away. Hey everyone, Smite Benevolence League is in full force. While we've heard rumors that this could be a potentially viable strategy since the start of the season, due to the nature of free gold per 5 seconds and XP per 5 seconds, it wasn't until this weekend that it showed itself to be quite viable. There are a few reasons why now is the time for it to show itself, but we think it is a combination of player discovery and the changing pace of conquest since the removal of boots. While we had more long-term plans for this item in patch 8.9 and 8.10, we don't see waiting that long as the best path forward. We discussed disabling the item as a whole, but had concerns that it would disrupt the support meta quite drastically for it to be completely removed. Working with our team, we were able to sneak in an extra balance adjustment into the bonus balance going live Tuesday, August 10th, that we believe will largely remove stacking Benevolence as a viable option. Rather than outright disabling the item or waiting 3 weeks for the Charybdis patch, this adjustment will be in your hands shortly. This nerf is in addition to the change to the shared percentage already planned for this bonus balance. Decrease the gold per 5 from 3 to 1, and decreased the gold per 5 per level from 0.5 to 0.3. This change will functionally cut the gold gained over an average game in half. We'll look into that a little bit more in just a sec. Since its quick rise, we have also seen a few community suggestions on how to resolve this, and I want to take a second to explain why the proposed change above is not any of those. While the ideas are great possible options for 8.9 and 8.10, they are not something that could be implemented without a full patch cycle with programming support, which is why the change above is not any of these. We will 100% be exploring these moving forward to ensure Benevolence will be healthy for the game long term. Another question that might come up is why not disable? Aside from the above mention that disabling outright would be quite disruptive, it would also remove it from SPL after some teams had already played with it. Upon reviewing options with the league operators and discussing it with the pros, thanks to all of you by the way who communicated with us in the pro Discord, it would be unfair, especially if we had a fix coming in by Tuesday. I also want to take a second to thank everyone who also provided their feedback about Benevolence, especially as it showed itself to be in a problematic state. Sometimes we push into dangerous territory to make sure you all have exciting options and strategies to utilize, and your feedback is one of the strongest tools we have to check ourselves when we inevitably push too far. Ponpon. Now, I think this is a good change. I think the fact that Benevolence was viable outside of more than just support was maybe a fun feature. We had something like that with Watcher's Gift way back in the day, I think it was, or maybe it was the Blessing that came after, but I know there was a phase where support items were basically everywhere. But clearly it has gone past the point where it's just the occasional pickup, and also something being the most efficient way to go about something doesn't necessarily mean it's a fun way. And if everyone is building this relatively passive defensive starter just for the gold, just to get to late game, I don't think that's a fun way to play the game at all. To demonstrate the impact of these changes a little bit further, Flareboot has posted a graph that's a rough approximation on Twitter where he showed how much gold you actually earn now. So this is assuming that you actually hit each level within a minute of the game, so you're 20 by 20 minutes, which is not necessarily what always happens in a game, especially on lower levels of play. That might not quite be the case. but it does roughly end up that way for the Pro League, and there are minor inconsistencies with that, but nothing that should be of a major concern, and we should get a good general idea. And then he calculated the gold that you get per minute, which you can see in this row, and previously that was 1980 gold by 20 minutes. So quite a lot, even though obviously in many situations you might even upgrade the starter before that time frame. On the other hand, under the new circumstances, you will now get 996 gold in the same time frame, which would be 50.3% of the previous value. So definitely a significant cut to the gold gain, but at the same time, as a support, I would still take that nearly 1000 extra gold. Ponpon himself then also posted his own calculation, which is a little bit different. He calculated based on the time that you need for the next level. So from level 1 to 2 you need 30 seconds roughly, but from level 16 to 17 you roughly need 120 seconds. Now again, this is not necessarily 100% accurate because it greatly depends on how your game is going, but especially through the consistent XP gain from Benevolence, this should roughly even out. In his calculations, the result for the previous gold value was that you would gain 2237 gold by the time you hit level 17, where you're likely to upgrade anyways. Under the new circumstances, with the 0.3 gold per level, this would now result in 1126 gold. So once again, it is very roughly halved. He also did a third calculation for what would happen if the gold gain per level was decreased from 0.3 to 0.1. In that case, the total gold gain would go down to 555. Now this would be a very, very heavy cut, with the gold value being reduced to almost 25% of the original. So that's maybe a little bit crazy. This calculation, by the way, also factors in the initial lower gold gain, the base value being lowered as well, so that is all considered. As such, I again think that the amount you're ending up here with is actually pretty solid after these changes. I think the approach here is good, and I'm looking forward to see what that will do for the support role especially, because there are obviously competing options that might be of more interest now, especially looking at Sentinel's Gift. If we look at them side by side, then I would argue that Sentinel's Gift's defensive stat overall are better. It has a little less MP5, but when it comes to raw survivability, it goes in favor of Sentinel's Gift. The problem is that it doesn't provide any extra XP, and if you value that a lot, then you will still be on the back foot. But when it comes to gold gain specifically, Sentinel's Gift should actually be a fair bit better now. I did some very rough calculations, assuming that we get just a minion wave every 30 seconds, then you would get 7 gold per 5 seconds. Now, this assumes a lot of things. This assumes that you're not getting anything else in between. This assumes that you're getting every single wave, and that's all not a given. At the same time, we could, for example, factor in an extra camp to that, because you're likely to clear a camp every now and then and have the assist for that, and then it would be 8 gold per 5 seconds. Then maybe you subtract a little bit because you miss out on some waves, and all around you probably end up somewhere between 6 to 8 gold per 5. And that is something that Benevolence cannot achieve for the majority of the game. If we refer back to Ponpon's chart here, we only get 6.1 gold per 5 at level 17. Before that, the gold gain is consistently lower. It is more reliable, but I think overall we are looking at a time where it's likely that you can get more gold out of Sentinel's Gift if played efficiently. We'll have to see some GP5 stats in-game to be sure about that, but that is my current prediction from what the stats look like right now. At the same time, with Benevolence you consistently have 7 HP5, whereas with Sentinel's Embrace you'll have somewhere between 10 to 14, factoring in all the outside factors. As such, I would say the race between the support starters will once again be much more between the upgrades rather than the tier 1s of them. So that is going to be very interesting, and I think that is a good change as well. At the same time, if you're not that good at farming or you die a lot, then Benevolence might still be the better option because it is just more consistent. So a lot of factors to consider here, a lot of things to think about and try out really, but I'm glad that we're going away from the Benevolence meta that is now so dominant that it's even picking up in other roles. So, hopefully onwards to a less boring meta. If you're new to the channel, feel free to sub button and maybe the bell so you get notified of other upcoming videos. I will likely upload a New World video later today, and then another Smite video and a New World video tomorrow if everything goes according to plan, just to give you a little bit of an idea what's going on. Thank you for watching, and thanks to my patrons for making this video possible. That's That Nick Walker, Zilaria, Zed the Undead, Nevitz Jr., Rawas, Angel, Erix88, Z Feroli, and everyone else you see here.